This what I found also highly amusing. And in fact, it occurred to me that maybe this is a good guest for this program. But a guy named Robert McElvaine, right? Am I saying that? McElvaine. Was on CNN. He is a historian of the Great Depression. And he is making the case, and I think it's a very good case, that the Republican tax bill is unprecedented, at least in the post-Great Depression. But it is precedented in very close to the Great Depression. You'll hear a lot of reports, too, about this tax bill that are just, it has glitches and like just the physicality of it. There's writing, I mean, because they threw this thing together so quickly. But here is how he deals with Stephen Moore. Stephen Moore, of course, is the hack, shill, Heritage Foundation, Trump economics. I mean, Trumponomics is probably the best way to say what field he works in. He's been doing this for a long time, but he's just honestly and here is that segment.
The position of Republicans then and now is take the method and try it. If it fails, deny its failure and try it again and again and again. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, at least for a little over a century, you go back to William Jennings Bryan in 1896 in his famous Cross of Gold speech. He said there are two contrasting views of how government and the economy should work. One is that you should make the people at the top richer and richer, and their prosperity will leak through on those below. Bryan said correctly that the democratic idea is the other way around, that you should try to make the masses prosperous, and then all those that are dependent on them will rise with them. And that's been the distinction ever since. He was talking about leaking through. That's the source of this term we now use of trickle-down economics, which we've had a couple of the Trump advisors just come right out and say recently, yes, I believe in trickle-down economics. Well, trickle-down economics has never worked. And the 1920s is a perfect example of that. The idea in the 1920s was the least government we can possibly have, the least regulation you can have, massive tax cuts. There were 3 different tax cuts in the 1920s. The Republicans were in charge of the government entirely during that decade, as they are at the moment, and they were able to do whatever they wanted. And what they wanted was mainly what was being pushed by the Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Mellon, who was one of the richest people in the world. And Mellon pushed through these 3 tax cuts.
So, Robert,
the most important of which was the Revenue Act of 1926.
Robert, you got to start.
And what it did was very much what this current Republican bill does.
He's not
stopping. Republican Senator George Norris of
Nebraska
said at the time that this bill would give more tax benefits to Mr. Mellon himself than the aggregate of almost all the people in his state.
Here's
and it's the same thing now. Mr. Trump and all sorts of other very wealthy people get by far the vast amount of benefits from this. Trump says, oh, this is going to kill me.
Thank you all. That's it for us today. See you back tomorrow. Bye.
No,
this isn't fair.
This isn't fair. Wait a second. He just told all this actual history, and I didn't have my chance to sling my bullshit.
I didn't have a chance to lie about it. Don, do something.
First off, I'm quite convinced that McElvaine's earpiece was out. Yes. But if it wasn't, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant genius.
Total genius. I want to give him the credit of saying that it was not out, because that is the best cable news hit I've ever seen in my life.
It's not the easiest thing to do, to sort of just continue to talk while they're still talking. And but the bottom line, but
it's like Steve Moore was an idiot kid in his office being like, a libertarian explanation of the Depression. He's just like, okay, young man, here's how it happened.
Right,
blah,
exactly.
Blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And blah,
bring out your notepad.
Yeah.
And but the idea that they have been hawking this trickle-down economics, and we've just seen it in Kansas. We had a 4-year experiment. The perfect opportunity to try this out. They cut all the taxes in 2012 under Sam Brownback. They brought in Arthur Laffer. Obviously not the creator of trickle-down economics, but the man who brought us the Laffer curve, which is sort of the theoretical support for the concept of trickle-down. They brought him in to work out what the tax plan should be. They passed it, they implemented it, and then a Republican legislature 5 years later was like, we need to reverse this because we've destroyed some of the best public infrastructure this state has. They destroyed their education system, their public university system. They had massive, massive deficits. And remember, a state is different than a country. It cannot print its own currency. They didn't expand their tax base like they thought. They did the same pass-through thing that the Republicans want to do on a national level. And all that happened is more people created more S-corps, more LLCs to avoid taxes. Their economy did not grow at a pace of all their neighbors. They significantly underperformed jobs increases relative to their neighbors in every single metric, in every both qualitative and quantitative metric in Kansas. Trickle-down economics failed. So what do? Well, of course, let's do this on a national level. And then maybe all of us, like Sam Brownback, who has now been appointed ambassador to Ether, he's now the ambassador to religion, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where he just floats above the country somewhere and greets angels. That's what they're going to have to do when they pass this tax bill. Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos